Urgent Cleveland Browns fans, do not miss this. What just happened? You won't believe this one. But before we reveal the big news, make sure to subscribe to the channel because here we bring you daily videos with the latest Cleveland Browns updates. And to not miss anything, activate the notifications. All right, Browns fans, today we're diving deep into a story that's been shaking the foundation of Cleveland's football scene lately. We're talking about the current quarterback situation, the recent struggles, and what this all means for the team's future. You know, it's no secret that the Browns have been going through a bit of a rough patch this season, with ups and downs that have kept fans on the edge of their seats. But what's really fascinating right now is the spark of hope that some are still clinging to, and some are questioning in the quarterback position. Dillon Gabriel, the young signal caller who stepped into the spotlight early in the season, has faced quite a few hurdles, and his recent performance against the New York Jets has only added fuel to the debate. So what exactly happened in that game? Well, let's start by setting the scene. The Browns, coming off a bye week, were hoping to turn things around after a series of tough losses. The atmosphere was tense, expectations high, especially considering the new offensive play caller, Tommy Rees, had taken over those duties from Kevin Stefanski. Rees, as many of you know, was brought in to inject some fresh ideas into Cleveland's offense, hoping to spark the inconsistent unit and give quarterback Dillon Gabriel a better platform to operate from. But as we saw, even with these changes, the offense struggled to find rhythm against a Jets defense that, despite recent upheavals, still posed a significant challenge. Despite facing a team that many considered favorable for a Browns win, Cleveland fell to a 2-7 record after their Week 10 defeat. That's a tough pill to swallow, especially for a franchise that's been trying to climb back into relevance after a few rough seasons. The offense, which was supposed to be a bright spot, looked flat, disjointed, and unable to sustain drives. Gabriel's stat line was modest, completing 17 of 32 passes for 167 yards, with 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. Those numbers on paper might seem decent, but the eye test told a different story. The offensive line's protection issues were glaring, as Gabriel was sacked 6 times, with Will McDonald, the Jets' defensive end, tallying 4 of those sacks alone. That's a huge red flag because protection is fundamental to a quarterback's success, and when it fails, the entire offense suffers. Now you might be wondering, what about Gabriel himself? Was he able to showcase enough to keep his spot? Well, he showed some flashes. His ability to spread the ball around was evident, targeting Jerry Jeudy, Harold Fannin Jr., David Njoku, Cedric Tillman, Quinshon Judkins, and Dylan Sampson. But the offensive line's struggles meant that, despite his efforts, Cleveland couldn't generate any sustained momentum. The offense lacked fluidity, and the Jets' defense, despite recent roster changes, managed to impose their will. Gabriel's performance with a passer rating of 88.9 was okay, but it wasn't enough to turn the tide or silence the critics. And here's where it gets even more interesting. After the game, questions about whether Cleveland should consider a quarterback change started to swirl. The name that kept popping up was Shedeur Sanders. The young quarterback from Colorado has been making waves across college football, and many experts believe he has the tools to succeed at the next level. But Kevin Stefanski, the Browns' head coach, was clear in his stance. When asked about a potential switch, he reaffirmed his commitment to Gabriel. "We're going to stick with Dillon," Stefanski said. "Obviously, young players that you're always trying to get one game better and those types of things, but we have to play better as an offense. We have to coach better. All of the above." That's a strong message of loyalty, but also a reminder that the team's immediate focus is on improvement, not drastic changes. Now let's analyze this situation more deeply. Why does Stefanski remain so committed to Gabriel? Well, there are multiple layers to this decision. First, Gabriel is still young, and in the NFL, development takes time, especially for quarterbacks adjusting to the speed and complexity of pro defenses. He's shown moments of promise, like his ability to extend plays with his legs, rushing for 54 yards on 5 attempts, and his willingness to distribute the ball to a variety of playmakers. That's an encouraging sign, showing he's not just a pocket passer, but someone who can make plays outside of the structure. However, the consistency and decision-making have been questioned, especially when the offensive line is struggling to provide protection. This brings us to the bigger picture. What does this mean for the Browns season? Well, with a 2-7 record, their playoff hopes are dwindling, and every game becomes a must-win scenario. The team's defense, which has shown flashes of brilliance, has often been left in tough spots due to offensive struggles. The shifting dynamics of the league, where teams like Kansas City, Buffalo, and Cincinnati are vying for playoff spots, mean that Cleveland needs to maximize every opportunity. Question is whether sticking with Gabriel will give them the best chance to do that, or if it's time to give Shedeur Sanders a shot, even if it's late in the season. The debate isn't just about one game or one quarterback. It's about the philosophy of the franchise. Do they believe Gabriel can develop into a reliable starter long-term? Or is Sanders, with his college accolades and upside, the future that must be fast-tracked? The organization seems to be taking a cautious approach, prioritizing stability and development over quick fixes. But as losses mount and the pressure increases, the coaching staff might face tough decisions. Another angle to consider is the comparison between Gabriel and Sanders. Shedeur Sanders, while highly touted, is still unproven at the NFL level. The transition from college to pro is notoriously difficult for quarterbacks, especially those coming from a system like Colorado's, which heavily features Sanders' athleticism and arm talent. Gabriel, on the other hand, has the advantage of experience in the NFL environment, understanding the nuances of the game at this level. However, his inconsistency and the offensive line's struggles make it difficult to see a clear path forward. The Browns' coaching staff is in a tricky spot. Stick with Gabriel, hoping he improves, or gamble on Sanders' potential and risk the timing of his development. Now, let's take a step back and look at the broader context. The Browns have a history of patience with young quarterbacks. Remember how they handled Baker Mayfield's early days. It was a process of ups and downs, but eventually they found their guy. Could Gabriel be that guy? Or is the franchise at a crossroads that might lead to a more aggressive approach? These are questions that fans and analysts are debating intensely. And speaking of the team's overall season, Cleveland's defense has been a bright spot, especially after some recent trades that shook up their secondary and front seven. Players like Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward continue to be anchors, but the offense needs to complement that effort. When your quarterback is under constant pressure, it's hard to execute plays effectively. The offensive line's struggles, especially in pass protection, have been a recurring theme. 6 sacks in a single game is a significant number, and it's a clear indication that the offensive line needs improvement, or at least a different approach. Looking ahead, the Browns face a series of crucial matchups. Their next games will test whether they can turn things around or if this season will be remembered as a missed opportunity. Will they give Gabriel more time to develop, or will they make a bold move and insert Sanders into the lineup? The coaching staff's decision will undoubtedly influence the team's trajectory. If they stick with Gabriel, he'll need to show marked improvement in accuracy, decision-making, and pocket awareness. If they opt to give Sanders a shot, it might be late in the season, but it could also set the foundation for next year. This situation also sparks a broader conversation about how NFL teams handle young quarterbacks. Do they wait patiently, or do they pull the trigger early? Cleveland's approach so far has been to support Gabriel, but the mounting losses and the pressure from fans and media might force their hand. It's a delicate balancing act. Developing a quarterback takes time, but the urgency to win now can sometimes override patience. One thing is clear: the Browns are at an inflection point. The decisions made in the coming weeks could define the franchise's direction for years to come. Will they stick with the familiar, hoping Gabriel finds his rhythm, or will they roll the dice on Sanders' potential, risking a learning curve but perhaps gaining a long-term solution? This is what makes this story so compelling for all Browns fans out there. It's a story of hope, doubt, patience, and boldness, all intertwined in the quest for NFL success. As we analyze all this, it's also worth considering the reactions from the fan base. Social media has been ablaze with opinions, ranging from unwavering support for Gabriel to calls for Sanders to get a shot. Some fans argue that Gabriel's athleticism and resilience are enough to keep him in the lineup, especially if he shows progress in reading defenses and avoiding sacks. Others believe that the team should embrace the future and see what Sanders can bring, even if it's just for a few games to evaluate his potential at the NFL level. This divide is common in many NFL franchises, but what's unique here is the passion with which Browns fans follow their team, always eager for a glimpse of hope. In terms of the coaching philosophy, Kevin Stefanski has shown a preference for stability and developing his players. His comments after the game reflected a focus on fixing the issues: better play calling, better protection, better execution. But how long can that patience last if the losses pile up? The pressure from ownership, the media, and the fan base can sometimes push coaches toward more immediate solutions. Yet, Stefanski's track record suggests he prefers to build from within, trusting his young players to improve over time. Looking at the bigger picture, Cleveland's aspirations are still alive, albeit faint. The AFC is stacked with quality teams, and the margin for error is razor-thin. Every game matters, and the choices regarding quarterback stability and offensive adjustments will have ripple effects across the rest of the season. The team's future hinges on whether Gabriel can develop into a reliable starter, or if the Browns will pivot and accelerate Sanders into the spotlight. It's a complex puzzle, with no easy answers, but one thing's for sure. Browns fans are in for an exciting, nerve-wracking ride. Before we wrap up, I want to emphasize how critical this moment is for Cleveland. The choices made now will influence the team's identity, culture, and performance for years to come. Whether Gabriel's journey continues or Sanders takes the reins, it's about more than just wins and losses. It's about the vision for the franchise. And as fans, we all know that patience and persistence are part of the process. But the NFL waits for no one, and time is ticking. In conclusion, Cleveland finds itself at a crossroads, with their young quarterback Dillon Gabriel under the spotlight and the future of their offense hanging in the balance. The decision to stick with him or to give Sanders a shot isn't just about this season. It's about setting the foundation for what's to come. Browns fans, keep your eyes peeled, because the next few weeks will be pivotal. The team's next moves could define their trajectory for the next decade. And now, Cleveland Browns fans, I want to hear from you. What's your take on this? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinion matters so much to us and to the Cleveland Browns. And don't forget, I'll be back soon with more updates, so stay tuned for the latest Cleveland Browns news. Pause here just for a second. If you want the YouTube algorithm to keep recommending the latest Cleveland Browns news to you, it's super important that you leave a like on this video. Go ahead, it's quick and IT makes a big difference. Thank you. Now let's continue with the big reveal.